Exactly 3 years ago, my family erased me. My mother would call it a necessary business decision. My sister, Valerie, with her practiced smile, would say it was for my own good. But the truth? It felt like being a minor mistake on a spreadsheet, deleted without a second thought. To understand, we have to go back to a miserable gray Sunday afternoon in March. I was 29, crammed into a tiny studio in New Haven, a chaotic mess of fabric samples and blueprints. I was an independent interior designer, and I'd just landed my first solo project, an $800 living room renovation. To the Kensington family, $800 was pocket change, less than my father spent on a single bottle of wine. But to me, it was everything. I'd spent 3 weeks measuring light, sourcing materials, working until my hands ached, just to prove I could survive. Then, late one cold Wednesday night, my phone lit up. Barbara, my mother, a knot formed in my stomach. No warm greeting, no check-in. Just 8 cold words. Family meeting this Sunday, do not be late. Her voice was sharper than usual, rehearsed, guarded, devoid of maternal instinct. A smarter person would have questioned her, demanded a reason, or refused to go. But my fatal flaw has always been this. Despite their distance and judgment, I still blindly cared. I still stupidly wanted to believe they needed me. So, Sunday morning, I put on my best clearance blazer and got into my 12-year-old Honda Civic. The passenger door had a dent I couldn't afford to fix, and the engine rattled at 60 miles per hour. I drove 3 grueling hours from New Haven to the heart of wealthy Fairfield County. The March rain hammered my windshield, my cheap wipers struggling. As I turned onto Ridgewood Lane, massive houses rose through the mist. My parents' estate, with its towering stone facade and heavy black shutters, felt suffocating. I'd grown up there, but it had never felt like home. It was built to intimidate, to display wealth, and I had spent my entire life being the only one who didn't fit their perfect wealthy mold. I took a deep breath, gripped my purse, and walked toward the heavy oak doors, unaware my life was about to end. The silence inside was the first thing that struck me. Usually, Kensington gatherings were filled with crystal clinking and booming laughter. Today, the air was dead. I heard faint murmurs from the formal dining room, my heart racing as my wet boots squeaked on the polished hardwood. When I stepped in, I realized it wasn't a gathering. It was an ambush. 12 people sat around the massive mahogany table, dressed in stiff, dark attire like a corporate board meeting or a grim funeral. Grandmother Beatrice, frail hands folded. Uncle Marcus, jaw clamped tight. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all lined up, refusing to make eye contact. At the head sat Mr. Carmichael, my parents' estate attorney, thick silver-haired glasses on a gold chain, a massive black leather folder open before him. Behind him, like a silent guard, stood my father. Gregory, arms crossed. He didn't even look up. My mother Barbara sat rigidly to the left, gesturing coldly to the only empty chair at the far end of the table. And there, proudly at my father's right hand, was Valerie. Immaculate in a tailored navy blazer, crisp white blouse, and pearl earrings, her spine perfectly straight, radiating victory. She didn't look at me, but she didn't have to. The slight, arrogant lift of her chin made it clear she knew exactly what was in that folder and was enjoying the show. On the polished wood in front of my empty chair was a single legal document. My name, Sloane Kensington, in bold black letters at the top. Before I could even sit down, my father cleared his throat. "Sit down, Sloane," he said, his voice flat, empty. "This won't take very long." I sat. The wooden chair was freezing. He wasted no time on pleasantries. He gave a sharp nod to Mr. Carmichael. The attorney adjusted his glasses, looked down, and began reading in a monotone. The document was a formal declaration, a legal instrument to disinherit me. My parents were transferring all their assets, the estate, the trust funds, the business shares, to Valerie, every single penny. I was being legally removed from the family. My inheritance, my future, my very identity as a Kensington, was being systematically stripped away. Valerie sat there, a smirk playing on her lips. My father Gregory watched me, his face a mask of cold indifference. My mother Barbara avoided my gaze, her hands clasped tightly. The rest of the family stared straight ahead like statues. No one spoke. No one offered a word of comfort. I was a ghost in my own family's home. Mr. Carmichael paused, then read the final devastating clause. Sloane Kensington, having demonstrated a consistent lack of business acumen, financial responsibility, and commitment to family values, is hereby deemed unfit to inherit any portion of the Kensington family estate. All assets, current and future, are irrevocably transferred to Valerie Kensington. My father finally spoke, his voice hard. "You've always been a dreamer, Sloane, unreliable. You chase these artistic whims while Valerie builds a real career. She's a lawyer. She understands responsibility. This is a business decision, purely. We can't afford to have our legacy jeopardized by your lifestyle." My mother chimed in, her voice brittle. "You never fit in, Sloane. Always drawing, always in your own world. Valerie is practical, she's stable, she's everything we need to carry on the family name." Valerie finally turned to me, her smile widening, a chilling glint in her eyes. "It's for your own good, Sloane. You'll thank us one day." Now you can finally focus on your little crafts without the burden of expectation. I looked at them, my heart a shattered mess. The humiliation was absolute, my entire family sitting in judgment declaring me worthless. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly on the polished floor. My voice, when it came, was a whisper. You think this is a business decision? You think I'm a burden? Fine. You want to cut me off? Consider it done. I turned and walked out, the silence of the house pressing in on me, the sound of my own footsteps echoing like a funeral march. I got back in my dented Honda Civic, the rain still relentless, and drove away, leaving behind not just a house, but a lifetime of rejection and the bitter taste of betrayal. For weeks, I was a wreck. The $800 renovation project felt insignificant. My parents had given Valerie $5 million to start her own law firm, and I was struggling to pay for groceries. My sister, not content with just the inheritance, began actively sabotaging my fledgling career. She used her legal connections, spreading rumors that I was unreliable, financially unstable, and a flight risk for any serious design project. She even contacted my $800 client, subtly implying I wasn't up to the task. The client, a kind middle-aged woman, called me apologetic, saying she had to go with someone else. My first real project gone. It was a dark period. I ate generic cereal for dinner, worried about my electricity bill. Every door I tried to open seemed to slam shut. I started taking odd jobs, anything to keep afloat. I designed logos for small businesses, helped friends paint their apartments, even did some freelance graphic design work. It was far from my dream, but it was honest work. One evening, while sketching designs in a dimly lit coffee shop, a woman sat down opposite me. She had sharp, intelligent eyes and an air of quiet power. Her name was Vivian Vance, and she was a real estate developer. She'd overheard me talking about design concepts with a friend. She asked to see my portfolio, which at that point was mostly sketches and conceptual drawings. She didn't say much, just nodded, her gaze intense. A week later, Vivian called. She had a project, a penthouse in a newly renovated industrial building downtown. It was a raw, unfinished space, exposed iron pipes, wires hanging like dead vines, construction dust everywhere. Most designers would have seen a nightmare and demanded a hazard fee. But I saw a stunning, sun-drenched cathedral waiting to be brought back to life. Vivian didn't give me a tour or a sales pitch. She just leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching me for 40 minutes as I walked through the empty rooms. I didn't aggressively pitch my services. I just moved slowly, running my hands over the rough brick, measuring sunlight angles with my palm, crouching to check sight lines. When I walked back to her, she had the faintest, sharpest smile. You see physical space completely differently than any other designer I have ever met, Sloan, she said. A slow nod of approval. That single penthouse project took 5 grueling months, but it came with an unheard-of budget of $120,000. More money than I'd ever been responsible for. The pressure kept me awake. I poured my soul into it, waking at dawn, sourcing reclaimed oak from salvage yards, commissioning custom copper fixtures from artisans. Every design choice was deliberate, every hidden corner telling a story of resilience. The day it was finished, Vivian walked through the pristine rooms. The afternoon light hit the custom wood floors perfectly. She didn't say a word for a long, agonizing time, my heart pounding. Finally, she stopped by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, turned, and looked at me with genuine respect. I have 3 very wealthy corporate colleagues who need a designer exactly like you within the next 2 months, she said simply. Just like that, the floodgates opened. Within 8 weeks, I went from screenselling for $800 living room refreshes to managing 4 active, full-scale residential redesign projects for major clients, all through Vivian's powerful recommendation. Over dinner one evening, Vivian casually mentioned an idea that barely registered in my exhausted mind. She was entering the boutique hospitality and commercial market and wanted a dedicated partner. I don't invest my money in people who need saving, Sloan, she told me, her eyes piercing. I only invest in people who just need a door open for them. And you, my dear, are ready to kick the door completely off its hinges. Exactly 8 months after that devastating family meeting, I packed up my life and left Connecticut. Vivian's new project was in Charleston, South Carolina, a gorgeous, historic city on the coast, filled with artists, creative minds, people who chose a different life. Breathing in the salty ocean air, it felt like the perfect place to stop running and start building. Everything I owned fit into the trunk and back seat of my dented Honda Civic. Fabric samples, design books, cheap clothes, 3 cherished houseplants. In Charleston, I didn't rent a luxury condo. I rented a small, historic 1-bedroom apartment above an independent pottery studio. The old wooden floors creaked, the kitchen cabinets were warped. The shower pressure was a polite suggestion. But sitting on that floor my first night, it was perfect. It was 100% mine. The very next morning, I marched to the local government office and filed the paperwork to establish my own independent limited liability company. I chose the name Cypress Design Group. I didn't want Kensington anywhere near my work, my clients, or my professional reputation. A truly clean start required a completely clean name, free from the suffocating baggage of my parents and sister. Vivian and I formalized our arrangement. She invested a massive $150,000 directly into Cypress Design Group. It wasn't charity. It was a strategic investment in a partner she believed in. We worked tirelessly, transforming historic buildings into stunning boutique hotels and vibrant commercial spaces. My reputation grew exponentially. 3 years passed. Cypress Design Group was thriving. We had a team of 15 designers and architects, a waiting list of high-profile clients, and a portfolio that spanned the East Coast. My annual revenue now exceeded $12.5 million. I had built a life, a career, a home, all from the ashes of my rejection. Then the calls started. First from a junior associate at Mr. Carmichael's law firm, asking to discuss a matter of mutual interest. I politely declined. Then a more senior partner called, hinting at potential reconciliation. I still refused. Finally, Mr. Carmichael himself called, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Sloan, your father would very much like to speak with you." I knew why. My success was now undeniable, impossible to ignore. The financial numbers were high enough to impress even the Kensington family. My lawyer, Julian, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney I'd hired to handle my rapidly expanding business, investigated. He discovered that Valerie, still bitter, had continued her campaign of defamation, spreading lies to brokers and potential clients in the South. She hadn't realized how far my reach had grown. The revelation was swift, brutal, and incredibly quiet, exactly how wealthy families handle their most devastating scandals. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my warehouse office by certified overnight mail. It was a handwritten letter from my father, Gregory, on his expensive personal stationery. I opened it and read the messy, slightly shaking handwriting. "Sloan, I am incredibly proud of what you have accomplished. I had absolutely no idea you possessed this kind of business acumen. I would very much like to see you in person. We have a lot of important things to discuss regarding the future. Can we please talk?" I read the letter twice, sitting at my massive oak desk. He was proud. Of course he was proud now because there was a massive $12.5 million price tag attached to my name. But where was this fatherly pride when I was starving, eating generic cereal, taking $300 jobs just to keep my electricity on? Where was this pride when his other, perfect daughter was actively poisoning every professional well in a 3-state radius to ensure I failed? I dictated my formal response directly to Julian, and he sent it officially through Carmichael's office. It was 1 sentence long. "Thank you, Gregory, but I do not need pride that arrives exactly 3 years and $12 million too late." I threw his letter into the bottom drawer of my desk and shut it. I didn't sue Valerie. I want to be incredibly clear about that. Not because I had miraculously forgiven her, but because a massive public civil lawsuit would turn my peaceful, beautiful life into a chaotic, stressful courtroom exhibit. I had spent 3 grueling years taking my life back. I wasn't handing it over to lawyers again. Instead, Julian drafted a formal cease and desist letter, 5 pages long, surgically precise and absolutely devastating. It named 4 specific, documented instances of defamatory communication. It legally attached the full, unredacted email chains Valerie had sent to the Southern brokers. It directly quoted the relevant Connecticut state statutes on tortious interference with business relations, carrying the threat of massive financial ruin. And it ended with a single crystal-clear statement. If Valerie Kensington continues to disseminate false or misleading information regarding Sloan Kensington or Cypress Design Group, massive legal proceedings will be initiated immediately, targeting both her personal assets and her firm, without any further notice. Julian sent it via certified legal mail directly to the managing senior partner at Valerie's prestigious law firm in Stamford. She didn't just get a warning. Her bosses saw exactly what she had done using their corporate email servers. Within a week, Valerie wasn't officially fired, because that would cause a scene, but she was quietly, brutally reassigned. She was stripped of all her high-profile, client-facing commercial transactions and moved to internal, low-level compliance review. She was shoved into a windowless office. No more wealthy client lunches, no more charity galas, no more power. Her pristine, perfect reputation eroded slowly and permanently in the exact same legal circles she had tried to use to destroy me. Months later, my phone rang. It was my mother, Barbara. I almost didn't answer, but something deep inside me knew this final conversation needed to happen. "You proved your point, Sloan," she said, her voice shaking with unshed tears and bruised ego. "You won now, please, just come home." I stood by the massive windows of my office. The southern mountains in the distance were painted a gorgeous, endless blue, and the busy, happy sounds of my employees working echoed behind me. "Mom, I didn't do any of this to prove a point to you," I said softly, feeling completely, utterly free for the first time in my life. I built a life, and this is my home now. I can't go back to being someone you only value when the financial numbers are finally high enough for your country club friends. I hung up the phone gently, completely severing the tie forever. I learned a massive lesson that day. You do not need permission from the people who gave up on you to start over. You just need one single door. Sometimes you have to build that door yourself with your bare hands until they bleed. And sometimes, if you work hard enough, someone holds it open for you. Setting strict boundaries with toxic family isn't cruelty. It is simply the beautiful, necessary decision to stop bleeding for people who refuse to hand you a bandage.